What is a vector? A vector is a directed line segment that has both magnitude and direction. We use a lowercase letter with an arrow or a bold lowercase letter to signify a vector. Magnitude is the size or length, and it is symbolized by the vector enclosed in double bars, and the direction is an angle. We'll use theta. Now, this is a vector. It's not the same thing as a ray. A vector has an initial point, which is also called the tail, and a terminal point, which is also called the head. It actually ends there. The arrow doesn't indicate that it keeps going like it does with a geometric ray. The arrow indicates the direction of the travel. So we will call our initial point with coordinates x1, y1, terminal point coordinates x2, y2. And all of these are the same vector. A vector is not defined by its location. It's entirely defined by its length, which is called magnitude, and its direction. So my clones are all the same vector. Kind of weird to think about. We don't have more than one vector on this page. We have one vector in different locations. A vector in standard position has its initial point, also called the tail, at the origin. And again, these are the same vector because they have the same magnitude and direction. They're just in a different location. The green one is in what we call standard position. Both vectors, it's common, they're not two separate vectors, but both locations represent the same vector because they have the same magnitude and direction. To put a vector into component form, which looks like this, notice the angled brackets. So it's almost like an ordered pair, but instead have the angled brackets. We will use this formula. We subtract the x's and we subtract the y's that come from the initial point and the terminal point. And we're always subtracting terminal point minus initial point. And that will put the vector into standard position, and we would identify its terminal point with this notation. Let's try some examples. To find the component form, and notice again we must have the angled brackets to indicate a vector. That's important. We will subtract the x values, terminal point minus initial point, 5 minus a negative 3. And then we'll subtract the y coordinates, negative 1 minus a negative 4, terminal minus initial. Do the math, and there's our new vector. That would be a vector in standard position. Automatically, the initial point of the vector in this position is at 0, 0, and ends at 8, 3. There's our vector. Initial point at the origin, and there is an arrow. It's kind of small here, but there does need to be an arrow to indicate the direction. Let's try another. Component form. Terminal point minus initial, negative 1 minus 3. Terminal point minus initial point, negative 1 minus 5. That gives us the new vector, negative 4, negative 6. And notice now my graph is representing quadrant 3, so that I can locate the ordered pair negative 4, negative 6, and draw my vector, which has an arrow at its terminal point.